One of the fascinating developments in religion in the last decade or so has been the growth in online churches. This is a phenomenon that to many Christians is beyond their understanding. It's a new idea, and what does it mean? With me I have Dr. Tim Hutchings, who has made a special study of online churches and is going to talk about them today. First of all, Tim, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Tim, tell us about the phenomenon of online churches.
So, one of the things you can do with computer-mediated communication of all kinds is have a conversation with somebody. You can start to build up a friendship, maybe, if you communicate with them over a period of time. You start to feel that you care about somebody you only know online. And then, if you're a Christian, you might think, actually, I want to pray with this person. And from there, it's not actually very far to jump and start saying, well, is this relationship of prayer now my church? And that's a jump that happened very early on in the history of computer-mediated communication. You've got references to things called church in the 1980s. There are things called memorial services online. There are sort of prayer events going on. There's an early reference to a memorial event being held online by a Presbyterian Christian group after the Challenger space shuttle disaster. And from there, the phenomenon snowballs. It continues to increase.
So actually, when I was wrong, when I said it was in the last 10 years, it's actually going back nearly 30 years now.
Yeah, so you were right and wrong, I think, which is one of the interesting things about this phenomenon. It's been bubbling along in a fairly small-scale, independent way for about 30 years. But every time it bubbles up again, it's presented as something that's very new. It's quite old and it's constantly new at the same time. So even today, you will find people writing articles in newspapers that say, brand new, amazing thing, never been done before, there's a church on the internet. So every one of these new inventions seems new. But you also find the style of church moving on from medium to medium as the internet gets more sophisticated. From things that look kind of like virtual worlds and chat rooms to things more like social media and video broadcasting and more up-to-date media later on. And you find bigger churches starting to get interested. So what was in the 1980s and the 1990s a kind of experimental space for people who wanted to do a new kind of Christian ministry becomes in the 2000s and the 2010s an opportunity for denominations, mega churches, people who've already got a lot of religious capital and financial capital, an opportunity for them to try and expand their audience online. So we could say, I think, this is something which is very old, but in another way it is quite new. It's over the last 10 or 15 years that really big institutions have started to get interested in doing this as a style of church.
And how has this phenomenon of online churches, how does it interact with the more traditional understanding of churches?
So this is one of the hotly debated questions of online church. If you can go to church on the internet, is that so easy, so relaxing, so kind of low pressure that no one will ever go to a face-to-face church again? Is there a competition between online worship and local worship? And you see, again, in the 90s, the early 2000s, people start to produce reports that say the church is going to struggle in the future because the internet is going to suck people away from local congregations into a low-cost, easy online alternative. You find quite similar conversations happening in a lot of different fields. So universities, for example, for a number of years have worried, if you can take an online course, why would anyone come to a lecture? And what we've found, actually, over a long period of research in all these different areas, is that people still come to the face-to-face context. The ones who want to use the online resources for church or for learning are often the ones who are most invested in going to their local community every week. They're already going to their local community every week, and so they want something even more than that, and so they go online to find extra.
So it's high contact?
Yes, in some ways. You also find there are some groups who have a special interest, maybe, in online activity. There are some people who cannot go to a local community because of health concerns, age, remote isolation perhaps, and for them an online community is their only alternative. And they will be a minority group within any kind of online church.
Tim, thanks for exploring this, because this is an area which to many people is very new, even if it's 30 years old. But it's also an area that is going to change more. It's changing almost as we speak. Now, if you want to examine more about this phenomenon, Tim has written this book, Creating Church Online. And it's the next step in finding out about this phenomenon. Tim, thank you very much.